Guys, welcome back to the channel. It's BMW Dr. Dean here. Today I'm going to be speaking to you about the N52 engine, and I don't think anyone's done this video yet on YouTube. And is it still reliable in 2019? Well, let's see, and let's see how much the parts work out for reliability issues. So the first thing is, you're going to want to know oil filter housing. It's the top one, and as you lot know, it leaks. When it leaks, the coolant mixes with the oil in the passages, causing smoke and people thinking their head gasket's gone. So that's the first thing. They're about £7 to change. Cheap on eBay, you can get them for £7. That's the first thing, and they're solid. I changed mine a couple of months ago and I've had no leaks. Next thing, don't know if you can see here, disc valves here and down here under the manifold as well, right here in the corner. Both of them fail quite often, especially in the UK on three-stage manifolds. We have them on a lot of cars that are M Sport. That's what makes the difference between the M Sport and the SE models, and the 523 and the 525. The 525i has one disc valve, the 530i has two disc valves for the torque, low RPM and high RPM. Do they fail? Yes, they do. When I bought this, both of mine were failed, and that one cost me, I think, £98, even second hand, and the other one brand new, another £98. Brand new from dealer, they're 250 for the top one, and I think 198 for the small one at the bottom. So it is quite expensive. They fail very often, and it is a problem that you need to be aware of. The next thing that fails, the two Vanna Solenoids, which everyone goes on about. Now, I replaced them with genuine OEM. I don't believe in using China parts for the car. It's just not my sort of thing. They work out £150 each one from the BMW dealer. I got them for I think £110 on trade discount, so it worked out very good for me. As you'll see on Nathan's channel again, I sent him two BMW ones, as the Chinese ones are completely junk. I actually tried them in my car. They weren't advancing the timing. They fail, and the reason they fail is because of the recall that I explained in one of my previous videos. The recall doesn't give the right amount of voltage to them, which then the Vanna Solenoids don't pump efficiently, which they're meant to, because they go in and out, pumping the oil up to the adjusters. When they fail, you don't advance your timing properly, so therefore the adjusters run dry, which then means they don't advance your timing, which isn't a good thing for your chain or your adjusters in that case, and also the cam bearing ledges. Next thing that fails, rocker cover gaskets. Mine's the magnesium cover, as you know, as you can see here, the cover's hanging out. When I got this one was really badly leaking. It was leaking them into the cylinders. I redone the whole valve cover gasket with the new bolts, as you can only use them once. Aluminum bolts, they have to be torqued to 7 Newton meters and then a 60-degree angle all over, but you need to let them sit after torquing them, and then retorque them and take the engine out, let it warm up, and then come back and retorque it. This is not an easy job, common problem. Normal garage will probably charge you in excess around, I mean here they charge you around £400 just for the labor involved. It only cost me the gasket and a set of bolts. While I was at it, I changed the spark plugs and I changed all the coil leads. So spark plugs were, I think, £55 for NGK Erdium Platinum spark plugs, and I also got the coils, which were set at £25 each from Euro Car Parts with their discount code. Bosch ones. When they fail, they leak. It's not an easy job to do. It is a home DIY job, but it's not easy and very not straightforward. It took me over an hour for my first time doing it on these. It's not as straightforward as the M54 engine. M54 engines are a lot more easier and a lot more solid and easier to get to everything than the M52. I'm going to be probably doing another one of these on another car, and I'll show you lot how to do it. I'll be doing a video on it. The next thing that fails after the rocker cover, and you're going to want to do this as you're taking the rocker cover off, is your Pcv system. Now, it runs from the crankcase to the oil separator, and then you've got the other hose that runs to the sump and back to the sump, and then from here as well along your manifold, to all the disc valves and to the intake manifold. So when you take the intake manifold off, which I had to do, which I did, I didn't actually have to, but I chose to replace the Pcv system. I replaced the whole Pcv system on the car. I didn't replace the disc valve by taking the intake manifold off, the second one here. All I done was lift the manifold up and pull it on the two lugs up here and put my hand under. Now, there is an easier way to do it. If you're going to change the oil filter housing anyway, the gaskets, what you're better off to do is unbolt the oil filter housing oil filter housing. When that's off, you can get full access to under there to the disser valve. That's your easiest way to remove the disser valve underneath the manifold without having to take the manifold off. You can actually just put your hand under and get to it. Now, to get to the oil filter housing, there's a bolt right here at the back, and you just use a swivel socket to remove it. It's an 8mm swivel socket. You get a swivel socket and an 8mm socket. Pull it on and it swivels off with ease. As I say, these are all common problems on this car. Is this car reliable still? I think so. The other things that always fail on these, and now in the US you lot get them more than we do in the UK, is a water pump and thermostat. Now, let me just say, my car's on 50,000, sorry. When I bought this car, it was on 148,000 miles. The water pump's never been changed. It's still running fine. Even when I check it with E60, the pump is at full volume. Now, that's because probably we don't get the amount of heat that you lot get there, or we don't have this sort of roads that you lot have there. We don't get the sort of problems you lot have in the USA on these cars. That's why we have the M Sport, because we got different fuel for the car and a whole different mapping layout. Now, obviously the next thing that fails are the coils on these. As you lot know, I've replaced all 6 of mine. Most of you just replace on one as you go, as they fail. But I know for a fact, when you replace one, the others are not long to go as well. So it's better to replace all 6 in turn. Obviously, you lot know about changing all 6 spark plugs at the same time. You don't change them one at a time. Obviously, the water pump on these is still costly. It works out at still £400. The cheapest you can get it at the thermostat is £288. That is pretty expensive for a water pump. The parts, I don't see them going down anytime soon, as them water pumps they've used on the F10 and the F30s. So I still look, and this layout I think they still use on the F10 and the F30s. So this is why the parts are still so expensive, and same for the disser valves. Me personally, I prefer the M54 engine. M54 engine is cheap, reliable. Parts are extremely cheap. You can get a water pump thermostat for no more than £40 on the M54 engines. That is a complete bargain. Even on the M57, which is the 530 diesel, 525 diesel, you can get the water pump thermostat for the same price as well. It bolts down here, and that's an engine I'm going to be showing you later on in the videos about the 530 diesels. It is an incredibly reliable engine. Hardly anything ever goes wrong with it. The most important thing is just the pipes that need replacing, the vacuum lines, and probably the turbo. If it's on high mileage, usually the turbos start to whistle and they're giving up. That's not a big problem at all. They're an easy car to work on. Like I say, the majority of the problems on this car are all because the owners neglect them because of the cost of what garages charge. I mean, you saw on my last video I changed the tensioner, the pulley and the drive belt. A garage was looking to charge me £120 just for that, so that's 2 hours labour. I always got to go and ring the garages to find out what the price are, so I can let people know on YouTube what a garage will actually charge for that job. Luckily for me, I do everything myself. But if you think of the oil filter housing, because they wanted to redo the coolant, which didn't need to be done, and the oil, which I already drained the oil, I already have my own oil. They were looking to charge me again another £180 just to change the oil filter housing gasket, and that's without the gasket. They were telling me they had to get it from main dealer. Again, I changed it for £7 and it was less than an hour's job. Like I say, disser valves, they were telling me again in the excess of £400 to £600 just to remove the intake manifold, because it was a massive job. I replaced this one in less than an hour, just lifting the manifold up and not taking it completely off. This one takes 5 minutes to unbolt, which I'll show you in another video how to remove them. The Pcv system is another job. Again, they were saying that was going to be replaced with gasket. They could do it all at once. They were trying to charge me, that's why they were charging me £400 to do it all. Now, I'm just telling you guys, garages charge an arm and a leg to run a BMW. If you can't afford to run these cars yourself, I wouldn't buy one. People say they're BM Trouble You. They're not BM Trouble You at all. That's the name people like to give them, and they just say to get a Lexus or to get a more reliable car. These cars are super reliable, but the one thing you have to remember, I think Nathan's explained this in his videos, if you cannot work on these cars yourself, do not touch them. You have to work on these yourself. These cars are not cheap. Garages do not charge you cheap. You have to learn to work on these yourself. You have to know how the engines work. That's why I strongly advise you in one of my previous videos to go and get E60. If you've got E60, you'll fault correct everything that's wrong with the car, and it will also show you how to repair it. As long as you've got E60, it will show you how to repair it step by step. The same what a garage will use with auto data. That's what they like to use here, and that's what they check repair times with. I can see the live repair times using a WOW software, which shows you all the repair times, how long it's going to take, and how many hours. Now, what the garage is charging is the set price of what they say it takes to do. It does not take that long to do. I think it's because they go and have tea breaks, or they mess about on other cars, but that's how they're there to make money. They want your car for a whole day or 2 days just to replace the valve cover. I think that's ridiculous. But I also replaced the Valvetronic motor gasket and the eccentric shaft sensor seal as well, both together. they're not hard jobs to do at all. Very, very, very easy jobs for a home DIY person, if you're confident with a car. As I say, the most common problems are the Vanna Solenoids, disvalves, probably only on the 3-stage manifold, valve cover gasket, and Pcv system. Electrical faults is normal on these E60s. They always suffer if there's too many modules on them. They all can't boot up at the same time, hence the reason they fail. Common one I've come across on these E60s when I've had one is the Bluetooth module. That's the most common one that's failed. And like I say, my combi, that was the only one. That was a very rare case that it was keeping the car awake. People would even understand why that was keeping the car awake. They hardly ever fail the combi, so why that was keeping the car awake, nobody knows. Would I buy another N52? When I first bought it and I did the job, I was like, I will never buy another one again. Now, after working on it, the power of these cars, yes, I would buy another one, but preferably, if I had a choice, I would go and get an M54 530i. M54 is cheaper, it's more easier to work on. It doesn't have all these plastics as you see up here that you have to take off that much to get to everything. It's a lot more straightforward. It doesn't require the disavows, which are so expensive. You can rebuild the older ones. You can't rebuild these. These are welded shut into the motor, as you can see here on the top here. You have to cut this open and then repair all the gears and the disavow. It's not an easy job. The kits are about £25 still. These days you're better off to buy a second-hand one. I don't recommend buying a new disavow unless you're got the money. I bought a new one for the small one only because it was cheap at the time. Like I say, drive belt tensioner pulley, you want to buy brand new. You don't want to buy that second-hand. Gaskets, you don't want to buy obviously second-hand. I strongly recommend, if you're going to do your valve cover gasket on your M52, using Victor Reigns. Don't use anything else. The Victor Reigns or L-ring, you've got two of them. Victor Reigns bolts though are the best. I haven't had no problems with them since I fitted that, and I fitted that over 5,000 miles ago with no problems. I will keep saying though, when you do your valve cover, if you do it yourself, always recheck your bolts, as they do come loose, and you'll realize that they do come back loose after a while, after so many heat cycles. Air filters on these are relatively cheap, but as I say, I chose to opt for the K&N. No point changing it for a cheap one when I can just upgrade it for a performance one. That's it. I've got the cleaning kit. No need to spend extra money when I don't have to. Every service. Spark plugs every 60,000 miles. These are NGK. Only just changed them 4,000 miles ago. They're perfectly fine. Coils, well, who knows with them. When the battery recall's done, your coils shouldn't have a problem again. But if they are having problems, it's due to your battery cable. Like I said in the previous video, your power fluctuating. If your power fluctuates, that will cause a lot of problems for you, and it will cause a lot of your sensors to fail. Oil temp sensor, I'm not really sure. That hardly ever fails. Like I say, the most common problems are the Vanna Solenoids. Camshaft sensors are another problem that fail. It's not something that's common. If they do, they need to swap out one 8mm bolt here and just spin it off and take the camshaft sensor out. Very easy. Crankshaft sensor on the other hand is not easy. It's all the way down there, so the manifold has to come off. Usually they get like a heat spot on them. Also, USA, you guys over there, you have the starter motor problem where your starter motor fails on these all the time thanks to the push start. We don't usually get that here, so that's not a problem really I can speak about for myself. If we do, starter motors again underneath the manifold has to come off. So as you can see, manifold has to come off quite a few things, but it's not a hard job on these at all. It's actually really, really easy, and I can get this off now within 10 minutes flat. Which again I'm going to be showing you in another video. Obviously there's a wiring harness, a junction box that connects to the manifold just down here at the bottom. When you put your hand out after this pipe, you'll feel the junction box. Two, I think Torx 30 bolts. You release them and take the junction box off. A lot of people say to remove it from the clip. If you remove it from the clip, it will break the clips and you won't be able to get it back on, which I advise not to do. Take them off by the bolts and leave the junction box hanging. It's the easiest and safest way to do it. Apart from that, guys, that's everything I've covered. Like I say, there's not much that fails on this car. The only thing I would advise, this car is still expensive in 2019 on the parts. Very expensive. The Vanna Solenoids, well, they speak for itself. £200 just for two Vanna Solenoids. M54 never used them. Water pump and thermostat at a cost of the cheapest £300 for a genuine Peerbug one on eBay. And BMW 400, it is still quite expensive when you consider the M54. You can buy the water pump and thermostat and you won't even have to buy Vanna Solenoids. As I say, this car is expensive. It's not for the ordinary people. If you want a BMW and you want something cheap and easy to maintain and you can do the work yourself, I strongly suggest go for the M54 engine. And you can get them on the E60s as well. If you go for the 5.5, I think it was below 2005 they still had the M54 engines in, and so did the 530i. I would strongly recommend to go for an M54 engine. I searched high and low when I bought this one. I couldn't find it, so I had to go for an M52. The only reason I went for it is because the power output, but you don't really notice it that much different from the M54. That's all for today, guys. Thanks for watching my channel. This is BMW Dr. Dean here. Please like, share and subscribe. I hope you've enjoyed the content I've been producing, and I hope this video will help you in your troubles to owning an M52. If it does, or you have any comments regarding this engine, or you need help fixing engine, or where this is or where that is, just leave a comment in my box below and I'll be more than happy to help. Thank you for watching, guys. BMW Dr. Dean here. Goodbye.